What if one night, without warning, your body decided to betray you? No explosion, no gasoline, no candles left burning. You're just sitting there, and then you're on fire. Not the kind of fire you see in movies. This is silent, steady, impossibly hot to burn you to ash. And when it's over, the rest of the room is untouched. The papers on your desk aren't even singed. Sounds like a horror story, right? But for hundreds of years, scattered across the world, people have been found in exactly this condition. Ashes where their torso should be. Legs and feet untouched. No clear cause, no obvious fire source. This is spontaneous human combustion, a mystery that lives somewhere between science, folklore, and your deepest, most irrational fear that your body could ignite itself. The first whispers of spontaneous human combustion are buried deep in history. In 1663, Danish physician Thomas Bartholin wrote of a woman in Paris who was consumed to ashes and smoke while sleeping, while her straw bed remained intact. It was the kind of story that could be dismissed as rumor if it weren't for what came next. In 1746, Italian philosopher Paul Rolli documented the case of Countess Cornelia de Bondi. Servants found her body reduced to greasy ash in her bedroom. Only her legs and part of her head survived, the bedclothes, the furniture, all untouched. The death was so bizarre that Raleigh's account gave the phenomenon its name: spontaneous human combustion. Jump forward 2 centuries. July 2, 1951, St. Petersburg, Florida. Mary Hardy Reeser's landlady came to deliver a telegram. The doorknob was too hot to touch. Inside, they found Mary's body almost completely destroyed by fire. All that remained was her left foot, still in its slipper, and part of her skull. The chair she'd been sitting in was mostly gone. But the room itself was remarkably undamaged. Newspapers just inches away from her body weren't even charred. The FBI suggested she might have fallen asleep smoking. But could a dropped cigarette cremate a body without setting the rest of the room ablaze? And then there's Dr. John Irving Bentley, 1966. A friend came by his house to deliver papers. He found a pile of ash in the bathroom. Above it, a walker leaned against the wall. Beside it, a single intact leg and a slipper. A hole was burned clean through the floor beneath the remains, but the rest of the house was untouched. No overturned heater, no electrical fault. Just ash, bone, and mystery. Some cases are even more chilling because there were witnesses. In 1982, in North London, 61-year-old Jeannie Saffin was sitting at her kitchen table. Her father, who was with her, said he saw a bright flash, and Jeannie was suddenly engulfed in flames. Her clothes burned away, but the wooden chair she sat on barely smoldered. There was no gas leak, no candle, no cigarette. The coroner called it death by fire, but her family still insists there was no source. It came from her. And these aren't just distant history. In December 2010, in Galway, Ireland, 76-year-old Michael Faherty was found burned to death in his living room. The fire was entirely confined to the area where his body lay. The fireplace was unlit. The coroner, after ruling out every other possibility, recorded the cause of death as spontaneous human combustion. The first time in decades such a verdict appeared on an official record. Across centuries, across continents, the details echo. Victims are often elderly, alone, and immobile. The fire destroys the body almost completely. Extremities like feet or hands are left intact. The surrounding room shows little or no fire damage. It's like the body becomes its own furnace and burns only itself. Scientists, of course, have tried to explain it. The leading theory is called the wick effect. Imagine your body as a candle. Clothing is the wick. Body fat is the fuel, and fat is flammable when it's melted. A small external flame, a match, a cigarette, can ignite the clothes. The clothes ignite the fat. The fat melts, soaks the fabric, and the smoldering heat sustains itself for hours. The body is slowly consumed, while the low flames and lack of oxygen mean the fire doesn't spread. Forensic experiments with pig carcasses wrapped in cloth have replicated this effect. The result is eerie. Feet and lower legs often survive, and the destruction is concentrated exactly where the fuel, the fat, was most abundant. But here's the problem. In some cases, no external ignition source is ever found. And in the rarest cases, witnesses claim they saw fire start from within the body, not from clothes or the environment. So other theories have emerged. One is acetone buildup. In some conditions, like alcoholism, diabetes, or extreme fasting, the body can produce high levels of acetone, a flammable chemical. Could enough of it build up in tissues to ignite? It's possible in theory, but no one's proved it can happen naturally at deadly levels. Another is electrostatic discharge, a sudden spark from static electricity igniting clothing or gases. Sounds plausible, but again, evidence is scarce. And then there are the paranormal explanations: ball lightning striking indoors, psychic energy bursts, even internal lightning generated by the body's own electrical systems. Science laughs at these, but the cases that don't fit the Wick effect keep them alive. Skeptics point out that almost every case involves a plausible ignition source: smoking in bed, open flames, alcohol impairment, even fireplaces. They argue that in the chaos after a death, tiny clues as a match, a cigarette butt, get overlooked, and myths take their place. And yes, in many cases that's probably true. Mary Reeser, heavy smoker, sedatives, flammable nightgown. Bentley? A tipped-over pipe and matches were found nearby. Once the fire starts, the Wick effect takes over. It's tragic, but not supernatural. So why does spontaneous human combustion still haunt us? Because even with rational explanations, some cases defy neat answers. Because it taps into something primal, the fear that you could just ignite. No warning, no escape. And because the imagery is unforgettable, a pile of ash in an otherwise tidy room, a leg in a slipper, the smell of burnt hair and nothing else. Modern fire science says SHC isn't magic. It's physics, chemistry, and bad luck. But here's the uncomfortable truth. We don't know exactly how often it happens, because when the evidence is destroyed by fire, certainty burns with it. Which leaves us here. You're alone in your home. There's a flicker of warmth in your chest. That's why this mystery never dies. It's not just about the past, it's about the thought you might be next. If you think it's all science and no mystery, comment Wick effect. If you believe some fires start from within, comment ghost fire. And hit subscribe, because next time, we're taking on another mystery that will keep you awake at night, wondering what's waiting in the dark.